All right, we're live.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Manny Rodriguez with Frank Lopez here on Tacobout Live. Want to welcome you this morning to our program. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be going over some things like our religious freedoms, religious rights. We're going to be looking at American independence, also the governor's race. We're going to be talking about rhinos among us, rhinos in the midst of us, and then of course tacos, Frank.
Oh yeah, I got mine.
Yeah, I got mine too. This huge taco from San Felipe Springs Cafe here in good old Del Rio, Texas, owned by Freddie Martinez. And I want to thank you, Freddie, for loading me up here today. It's quite a big taco.
And I swung by Chitos and picked up a chorizo bean taco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chorizo and bean taco. It's funny. It's funny because originally I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico, and when I first moved over here, one of the things that was very different for me was having tacos for breakfast
Uh-huh.
because over there it's burritos.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's burritos for breakfast. And so I remember the first night I was on patrol and the border patrol and my journeyman had asked if I wanted to go get tacos for breakfast, and I thought, what are you talking about, man? Why tacos? Because we eat tacos for lunch and dinner, you know.
Yeah.
And of course for us it's tacos are in a hard shell.
Yeah.
If it's in a soft tortilla, for us it's burritos.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was
And I lived in El Paso. Grew up in South Texas, bro. El Paso was that was the difference, man.
Yeah.
I was like, what? They did it different because it was New Mexico style. In El
Yeah.
Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that and the huevos rancheros with the tortilla.
Oh yeah. Actually, I still eat them like that. And then we have the over there we have the enchiladas. We don't roll our enchiladas; they're like pancakes.
Yeah.
Red enchiladas, and we put an egg on top. We call them enchiladas montadas.
So I got a horror story, bro. We were in El Paso actually, 4th of July weekend, and the huevos rancheros over there, bro. They come with what you would say bañados, bathed in chili powder, bro. I mean, hey, look, I could deal with hang with the jalapeno serranos, but that chili powder was an inch thick, exaggerating here, but yeah, it was just a little bit too much, bro. But they sure love that chili out there, that whole influence, the hatch chilies and red chili peppers, green chilies.
Yeah.
But it was all good, bro.
Oh yeah, actually, there's a place over here in Del Rio now, man, that makes green chili cheeseburgers,
Huh.
and with the hatch green chile on them.
Well, I love the green chili. What's the name of that? Billy Bob's, I guess.
Oh, here?
No, on the way to San Antonio, there's.
Oh yeah.
They make those green chili.
Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, folks, you all know we love our food, man. We love to eat.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of where this came about. Is we get together and we can talk for hours, and so why not talk about it over some tacos?
Yeah, exactly. But we have quite a bit to talk about today.
Yeah,
In regards to what's happening in our nation today, and there's some big stuff happening in Cuba now.
Yes.
Right. There's protests going on as well, wanting people protesting against Cuba.
Yes.
Against communism there in Cuba, and also I think some of those protests have spilled over here into the United States amongst Cuban Americans.
Yeah.
Sadly, this administration believes that they're rioting and protesting against COVID, which is against cases of COVID there.
And that's what they do, Manny. I mean, folks, you need to be aware, and I'm sure a lot of people are, but it's a constant presentation of the narrative, the story they want you to believe. That is what they constantly put out, and so you've got to be informed. You got to do your research. You got to be thinking critically.
Right.
If it doesn't make sense, it's probably because it doesn't make sense. It's not right.
Yeah.
And so, folks in Cuba have been over there for their lives, and they know what freedom is.
Yeah.
They can sense it. I mean, my God, they're only 90 miles away, from the Florida coast. They're hearing from their relatives,
Right.
and they know that there is a difference. And freedom, honestly, it's endowed in us by our Creator.
Right.
He made us with that yearning to be free.
Exactly.
And so that yearning is in them as well.
Yep. The Book of Acts talks about that. That God places us in areas, and He's the one who sets the boundaries. But within us, He says that He in hopes that we would seek Him and grow for Him and seek Him.
Bro, that's one of my most favorite scriptures, man, because it talks about it talks about the sovereignty, but the mercy.
Right.
The never-ending love of God to be constantly reaching out to us, man.
Oh yeah.
And I've used that for all manner of situations because it talks about just man can make their plans. Heck, they can fly up into space, and dream for the stars, to reach the stars.
Right.
But at the end of the day, our Creator God holds our destiny, our future in His
Right.
hands, man.
You know, because I get that a lot, Frank, in regards to, faith. Well, people tell me, the reason I don't believe in God is because what about all these people out there in the middle of nowhere? And I'm like, well, he found us here,
Yeah. And Romans talks about that.
Yeah, Romans talks about
creation speaks of a God.
Exactly. Exactly. And it also talks about in the book of Acts as well, like we were talking, it's one of my favorite pieces of scripture. Reason being is because it also talks about our borders, our natural boundaries. Yes. As well, in the sovereignty that each nation has in regards to that. Of course, it goes all the way back to Exodus as well. It goes through the prophets as well, talking about our borders, our walls, things like that help protect us.
Yes.
And you shared a video with me a while back, a few days ago, and I want to play it. It's about this California pastor, speaking about actually preaching from the pulpit that maybe believers. He's a Christian pastor. He's speaking about Christians in specific, but he also mentions Judaism as well. That maybe we should lay down our rights.
Yeah. Bro, it is such a contrast.
Yeah.
Because God gives us those rights. It's more than rights. I mean, it's a part of our being. The gifts and the freedoms that the Lord gives us. And so, for a man of God, to say that it's a total contrast.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and play the video. It's on from Charlie Kirk's website. I actually like listening to Charlie Kirk quite a bit. Once in a while, him and Candace Owens.
Good thinkers.
Yeah, really good. Positive thinkers as well.
And positive thinking in the way that they're presenting a good message,
right.
The truth,
right.
And they're articulate about it, but also, bro, the young people, man, that they need to see others exercising their critical thinking skills.
Exactly. So I'm going to play this video real quick. Let you know, if you want to let us know your thoughts about it as well. Make sure you leave us your comments here. We're also on YouTube. If it's hard for you to watch us on Facebook Live, we're also on YouTube right now. We're going to be going to Spotify here pretty soon as well, Podbean, iTunes, and also we're working on a website.
Yes.
Where you can email us, leave your comments. We're going to be posting some articles as well in regards to what is happening today in our nation and here locally as well.
Yeah.
But let me go to play this video. Let me know your thoughts on this after I play it here, Frank.
I'm afraid that some Christians were more concerned with making sure that no one was trampling on their rights than with showing love to their neighbor by complying with pandemic restrictions and guidelines. That's just a fact. That's a reality that some people don't even want to think about, but it is true. It's a sad moment, truly, when there's a crisis in the world and there's a lack of leadership, and you would hope that the church could rise to the occasion and show people God's way. This is an opportune moment. Moments like these don't come along all that often. But what's happened during this moment? That for many, they're more convinced than ever that they don't want to have anything to do with the church or Christians because of the way they saw Christians behaving during this pandemic. With all of the insistence on my rights. You're not going to mess with my rights. You're not going to trample my rights underfoot. Well, listen, if Jesus would have thought that way, none of us would ever be saved. If Paul would have thought that way, the gospel never would have gone anywhere outside of the small boundaries of Judaism. And in our day and age, if the gospel is going to advance, we've got to lay down our lives and sometimes our rights as well for the benefit of others.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know the Bible tells us and talks about laying down our lives. Very much so, laying down our lives every day and to even serve as living sacrifices. But I think his context is completely wrong in regards to what he's understanding.
Exactly, bro. And you've been schooled, educated, and theological, and it's a general concept. You got to look at things within the context.
Right. Right.
Anybody can take any one verse, word, sentence,
right,
and just build a false doctrine or
Oh,
a
yeah.
false, ideology on taking something out of context.
Yeah,
so-
and that's what he does, and that's what he does. In reality, that's how culture started, the cultic thinking as well. I mean, yes, laying down our lives is in the scriptures, but the context and what it means is about, I put you first. I mean,
Yes.
Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, actually qualifies that before he even gets to this point in the book of First John, that not to think ourselves as something that we're not, put
Yes.
others first. In regards to the gospel, that's the message, the gospel
Yes.
message. I know nothing else except this: Yeshua and Him crucified. That's it, and that's what it talks about, laying down our lives. But what he's talking about is even giving up our God given our godly endowed rights,
Yeah.
Rights that we have endowed by a Creator that our founding fathers
Yeah.
actually agreed upon.
Yeah.
That you and I, everyone here in the United States of America, have these rights endowed by our Creator.
Yes. Well, and there's plenty of biblical, precedents for this. I mean, think about the scripture, but it talks about, unjust kings make the people groan.
Right.
Unjust rulers. Going back to that aspect of it, it's in us. God has given us that intelligence, that ability. Now, some people's thinking gets clouded, and so that's where we got to, preach the truth, speak the truth, and not be afraid, to speak that truth to the powers that be. And so, for him, he's talking about COVID and the mask thing. It starts with small beginnings. I mean, there's a scripture that says, "Do not despise small beginnings."
Right.
Well, the enemy comes to pervert, and
Right.
so how do they do and destroy and to twist? And so how do they get their ungodly Marxist agenda across, bro? Is first of all, you have to like tenderizing fajitas for the grill, bro. You got to pummel and just beat down,
Right.
and you've got to break down that God-given will to be free in the man, and that's what it's a concerted effort from all different fronts to beat down our will to be free, to beat down our ability to think critically, and
Right.
and that's why I've been saying, folks, you need to talk to your pastors, your clergy, your rabbis, los padres. You need to be speaking to them, because if they're not speaking for truth, they might as well be a tool of the enemy, man.
Right.
They need to be hammering with the truth, and it's not wrong for folks from that that high profile place, the bully pulpit, the pulpit, to speak about overreaching government, because at some point or another, and they're already doing it, they are trying to control every facet of our society, to include the faith community, where you can. I mean, COVID was a perfect example of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
They shut down churches and synagogues throughout the world, not
Yeah.
just in America.
Yeah.
So, that's a bit irresponsible, man. I don't know too much about really anything about.
I don't
this
either.
passion.
And we could say, look, that's just one piece of the sermon that was taken. However, that one piece says a lot. We're coming out and saying maybe we should lay down our rights. No,
Yeah.
the Bible talks about just government, like you said.
Yeah.
Now, the Bible talks about also that God puts those in authority, puts people in authority. So He knows exactly what's going on in the United States of America in regards to government. But the reality is as well that He's also given us the ability to stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
Back in the early days of the founding of our nation, a lot of people don't realize, but there was a group of ministers, clergy, that they referred to as the Black Robe Regiment.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one day we'll do a whole broadcast on them, because it's an
Yeah.
amazing. If you haven't looked them up. They're called the Black Robe Regiment, and and it's amazing because even Great Britain, many of the generals of Great Britain credited the Black Robe Regiment with starting the American Revolution. That they were the cornerstone of the American Revolution. That without them, we wouldn't have an America. Why? Because they were preaching from their pulpits. Matter of fact, there's some early paintings of ministers taking off their black robes. That's why they call the Black Robe Regiment. They weren't actually a regiment, fighting regiment. Actually, they did fight though, but they weren't a organized group of soldiers.
Yeah.
They were pastors, clergymen, who would preach with black robes on back in the day. And there's wonderful paintings of early depictions of them taking off their robes and having uniforms underneath.
Yeah.
Militia uniforms underneath with guns.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would even preach with their Bible and their pistols on the pulpit.
Yeah.
And their sermons were to encourage their people, their congregates, to get out there and fight.
Man, that stirs me up, bro. I mean, it makes me think, of course, of Nehemiah, man.
Right, Nehemiah.
Building the wall, they're one hand they're working, but they're vigilant. They had a sword ready, man.
Right.
As American, as people of faith in America, bro, Jewish Americans, Messianic Jewish Americans, Christian Americans, Catholic Americans, we have to be aware of this nation's unique founding.
Yeah.
You're right, bro. It is a Christian nation.
Yeah.
I mean, people can gnash their teeth all they want, but that is the truth, bro.
Right.
And so, of course, you can talk about conquering and manifest destiny and all that stuff. It's a part of human civilization. It's a part of history.
Yeah.
But we're at a unique time, Manny, where we see that the ungodly doctrines and ideology of Marxism, socialism, communism, bro, they've made tremendous inroads into our nation. And so, it's unfortunate that we have clergy, that are actually, greasing the skids for that, man.
Frankie, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. I mean, we look at, as a Jewish believer in Yeshua, I study a lot about, my heritage in the Holocaust as well. Mm-hmm. And it's not the first time throughout history where people of faith, so-called leaders of faith, have embraced evil doctrine. Yeah. And even that led to the persecution, not only persecution, but also the elimination and extermination of people, specific people, specifically the Jews during the Holocaust. Before that, there was also Roman leaders who came in and tried to take over certain lands, and religious leaders as well, and embraced their ideologies as well. The story of Hanukkah is an amazing, in Apocrypha, the first and second Maccabees, the story of Hanukkah explains just that, where Antiochus Epiphanes came in and started implementing his ideology, his Hellenistic religion, and then there was religious Jews at the time that embraced his ideology. And then a family of Hasmoneans stood up and said, "No, we're not going to take this," and the whole fight started. And then there's example in the scriptures about God calling His people to stand up. Joshua, in the book of Joshua, when they surrounded the walls of Jericho. Yes. And we look at the book of Esther, right, when they were about to be exterminated as well, annihilated by an evil ruler, and God gave them the ability and the right to fight back. We look at even historicity itself. There was a battle called the Battle of Bar Kokhba in 132 AD, I believe, where Jews, non-Messianic Jews, and Messianic Jews, followers of Yeshua, actually joined forces together to fight.
Yeah. So let's take and this is something I tell young folks, people. But anyways, mentoring and teaching, nurturing young people. Take your argument to its logical conclusion. Based on your premise, based on your argument. So lay down your rights. Okay. Put on the mask. Yeah. Lay down your rights. Put down your weapon. Yeah. Lay down your rights. Get into this train, which is going to take you to a camp somewhere.
Right.
Lay down your rights. It's a small beginning, but the crack, the damage becomes it increases. Right. And so, for Christian Americans, people of faith, Messianic Jewish Americans, people of faith in America, we have to be praying, we have to be watching, we have to be researching, and we have to be speaking with our clergy. We need to be talking about what is happening in our nation, and gently, prayerfully, but firmly, you need to encourage them to be people, men and women of faith. And we've seen it throughout human history, bro, that when the cause is right, it is a true cause.
Right.
It's not a man-derived, a man-manipulated cause.
Right.
And freedom, and it's true to God's word, God's law. There comes a time to fight, bro. Think about the greatest generation, young men and women who gave their all, bro, their future, to go overseas and to fight the Nazi threat head on, bro. Right. Because it was demonic, it was devilish, and it was sweeping across Europe, and of course the Axis powers, Japan and Imperial Army, on our west, and having had to have gone to Europe to fight to free people, to stop the slaughter of people, bro.
Right.
And that's where we're headed. Yeah. I mean, a genocide through eugenics, and other means, it's real. Why? Because it is the spirit of Antichrist, bro.
Yeah.
It is the devilish spirit that controls. Somebody sent in a suggestion. I'm going to read that real quick. See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than on Christ.
Yeah.
And if you had to boil it down, folks, in our lifetime, we are seeing good versus evil.
Right.
And so be on guard, be vigilant, be prepared, be studied up, be armed, ready to defend yourself, defend your faith, and defend your very life.
Right.
I mean,
years ago, I spoke to a Holocaust survivor, and she was expressing to me that one of the reasons her family didn't leave Nazi Germany was because her family was at that point in time was a very wealthy family, and she lived in a very wealthy area of Jews, and she believed, and the rest of the Jews on her area believed that, along with their family, that the reason they shouldn't leave was because they felt that the Germans needed them, Nazi Germany needed them, and that's what the Nazis told them, and placated them and appeased them until it came time to annihilate them.
yeah.
And so they believed the lies. The Nazis believed that if they controlled the textbooks, if they controlled the schools, if they controlled the education, they would control the future generations. And that's what's happening here. Look, with this critical race theory that's trying to make its way into this. And you need to stand up against that as parents. If you have children in school and it's trying to make its way, God, hopefully it doesn't make its way here to Texas. But the reality is, if we don't get a strong governor in the office, it's going to make its way. And also strong school board members, even all the way to the local government.
Yes.
That has no place in our educational system. Kids in our schools should be taught writing, arithmetic, and English.
Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Right.
Yes.
Those are things they go to school for.
Yeah.
Right. They don't go to school to learn about all these social issues and things like that, and become social justice warriors.
And so, and that's a great segue, bro, because we need to talk about, elections. But before I forget, Chad Prather will be in town tonight at Rudy's.
Okay.
But
Here in Del Rio. If you're not in Del Rio,
Del Rio.
he's in Del Rio.
Chad Prather is one of the gubernatorial candidates. And then Alan West is I got word he may be coming in the 22nd of July.
Okay.
So stay tuned, more details. But yes, Manny, you hit the nail on the head. In order to fight critical race theory and other destructive ideology, because it is destructive, it is ideological,
Right.
but it's also a form of false religion, because the left has their tenets, the tenets of their faith.
Right.
And
they have their prophets.
They have their prophets. They have their evangelists out there preaching their message.
Yeah.
So Christians, people of faith, people who believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, you need to get involved. Throw out the old chains, the old thought, those paradigms that say we shouldn't get involved in politics. People have said that for decades, and look at the state of our nation.
Right.
We have elections coming up next year. You need to get involved. Look into research. The deadlines are approaching quickly to file for school board, for county positions, hospital district board, city council. There's water district, conservation district. People of faith who espouse a Christian belief need to get involved in every conceivable electable office. All the way up to the White House. Look at the state of our nation.
Yep. And I'm going to say it. As a congregational leader, I'm a senior rabbi here at a synagogue, Messianic Jewish synagogue here in Del Rio, Texas, the Baruch Hashem Assembly, and I can tell you, I've talked with other people, other religious leaders, and one of the biggest factors one of the biggest reasons a lot of religious leaders do not say anything from behind the pulpit is because of fear. There's 501c3. I don't know. In my opinion, big deal. Because my religious freedoms, my God-given rights are more important than tax exemption.
Yeah.
But that's one of the big reasons, Frank. That's one of the big reasons why.
Don't even get me started on that.
Many
bro.
people they don't talk about things from behind the pulpit because they're afraid of losing their their money. And it's sad. It's sad because the gospel is not to be bought and paid for. The gospel is to go out, and I believe in the gospel, but I also believe in our freedoms that should not be dictated by a government.
Yeah.
Governments are put in place to protect our freedoms,
Yeah.
right? Not to dictate or take away.
Yeah, and they're servants of the people, man.
They're servants of the
There
people.
are servants,
Right.
and the way they act like they're our masters. And if you don't agree with their thought, you don't agree with with them, they'll hate you, They will mock you, ridicule, scorn you, push you away, but at the end, they will seek to subjugate you.
See, and evil, and that's the way evil works.
Yes.
That's the way dictatorships have worked. One of the big reasons why I think this administration has a hard time coming out and defending the protesters that are the protesters in Cuba right now is because they espouse and they promote this administration promotes communism.
Yes.
Promotes socialism. Socialism leads to communism.
Yeah.
That's history. That's historicity. And so I think that's one of the big reasons why this administration is having a hard time saying anything because Cuba is a how do you say is a talking point for them.
Yeah.
They have great medical care. You know, they have great educational system. But if you live there, you know, you talk to you hear Senator Ted Cruz and how his family escaped Cuba.
Yes.
You know, I was watching a program the other day, and this young man was there's this program that I like to watch called Master Chef. I don't know if you ever watch it, but it's pretty good little show. I like, you know.
Is it about food?
It's about food, yeah. So it's about food. So this one young contestant on there talks about how him and his family escaped Cuba at the age of like 10 or 12, and the first time he ever tasted an apple was when he got to America.
Wow.
And that's why he fell in love with food and wanted to become a chef. You know, but over there in Cuba, he said there was nothing for him, and he knew that he would never attain his dreams.
Yeah.
You know, and here in America, this is a land of opportunity. It is still the land of.
It is, but it's wavering. It's flickering.
Yeah.
You know, bro. I mean, you know, you see the storm clouds on the horizon, folks, and if you live out in tornado country, you know, there's always that aspect in the back of their mind that, hey, is this going to bring a tornado? Let alone the strong winds and the driving rain and the destructive hail. Is it going to bring a deadly tornado? Folks, we're 245 years, but we are not that far removed when you think about the totality of history from the founding of our nation.
No, we're not.
You know, and so the storm clouds are building, and in the back of our head, we have to have the thought that our founding fathers fled tyranny. They fled, you know, they came, you know, as subjects of the British Empire, but there came a moment in time when they realized that they were under the rule of a tyrant. And folks, our government officials, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, most of them, are tyrants at heart.
Right.
And so we have to reach deep down into our collective, you know, memory and grab a hold of, you know, that founding father, founding patriot spirit.
Right.
You know, and I'm not talking about, get your weapon today, march down. I'm not talking about that, folks. They, like Manny said earlier, they railed, they preached, they raged from the pulpits against this, and they encouraged people to get involved, and they spoke and they petitioned, but there came a time when they knew it wasn't enough. And so, folks, I've heard a lot of things. You know, we were hearing a lot of things. We see DPS all over the place, troopers. We see National Guard deployed. You know, we got people calling for federal troops to come down to Texas because we're getting too rowdy down here. You know, like that racist LULAC, organization.
Yeah.
But folks, we need to, while we have yet time, talk. Now, the legislative session, special session, was called into being by Governor Abbott here last week. And there are people throughout the state that are planning to go to, Austin to talk with their legislators. We're working on a cohesive message. Of course, go talk about whatever, but specifically, whatever your interests are. And there's a lot of legitimate, critical issues. Gender modification, man. I mean, my God, Abbott's been the governor for 6 years, and we've had the Texas legislature as Republicans under our control for 18 years, and we haven't. This should be a solid red state. We should not be in the upper 25, upper 30 of most conservative states in Texas. Right. We should be number one. Number freaking one, folks.
I mean,
but we have spineless politicians.
You're exactly right. There's governors of other states that are looking at Texas going, what happened to Texas?
Yeah. And so, be informed. Don't go rant and rage over there. Do your research. Have your talking points. These guys, folks, attention spans are short.
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5 talking points maybe. But at least solid 3 talking points. We've been involved. Border security issues, of course, because we live on the border.
Right.
And so we're preparing some talking points about that. But there's that. There's election integrity. You know, look at what the Democrat, some of the Democrats are doing. If not most of them, fixing to walk out. There's also, property tax, which has come up to, which for me is dear and
Huge.
dear,
Yeah.
near and dear to my heart, bro. Because we've owned our house for over 25 years.
And that to me, that's amazing,
Yeah.
Frank, because we've owned our house going on 25 years as well.
Yeah.
And well, I say we're trying to own because in the state of Texas with these property taxes, you don't pay it. The state can come and take your property away.
Yeah, the state's the lien holder. Your mortgage lien holder. Until you die.
And again, that's Texas. You have people. I think people don't understand. There's this idea of Texas in the world, in the United States. A few years ago, when I went to Israel, right, I was talking to some IDF soldiers and young man. They're like 18 and 19 years old, and I thought to myself, man, did I look that young when I was in the army? But yeah, I did, and I think I'm twice the man I used to be, literally now, especially with these tacos. But anyway, I was talking to them, and then when they were asking me, where are you from? Where are you from? And I said, well, from the United States. And they said, yeah, but where do you live? And I said, I live in Texas. And they're like, Texas. They started cheering, Texas. And they said, and two of them came up to me and said, when I go to the United States, I want to go to Texas. And I said, why do you want to go to Texas for? And they said, because I want to ride horses and shoot guns. And so that's their whole, and that's a big picture of freedom for them.
Yeah.
When it's not about just riding horses and shooting guns. Later on, as I was talking to them, they had this idea in Texas that Texas was the Lone Star state.
Yes,
freedom,
rugged individualism,
right.
bro.
There's an exceptionalism about being a Texan.
And we talk about our founding fathers, bro, but Texas is unique in that fierce fight spirit for freedom. It existed in our founding Texas fathers as well. And so, it's time, folks, reach down, and reach deep. We need your courage. We need your bravery. We need your voice to be heard in a controlled, measured, thoughtful manner. But your voice firmly needs to be heard. And these folks, they don't like it, bro. They don't like to be reminded that we are their masters.
Right.
We are their bosses. They work for us.
Yeah.
And there's some that are so flippant in the way they deal with you. It's like, hey, wait a moment here, man.
Yeah.
Let me just remind you about the relationship here. Yeah, you got elected. Yeah, you got a post. Yeah, you got a title. But at the end of the day, you're a human. You go to the restroom just like I do. And you were picked up from amongst us to go represent us.
Right.
And so here's my voice, because it's a part of, the message that you need to be taking to the body, to the legislative body. And we elect them to be our warriors, our champions, to fight for us. And when they lose sight of that, then it's time to kick them out.
It's time to
kick them out on the street. They can go work somewhere else. But they're not fit. They're not fulfilling the duties that they were elected to do. So that's a perfect segue into the gubernatorial race.
Yeah. We got a governor, and I like I've met Abbott a couple of times in the past. I appreciated his. I went to a few meetings years ago that he was a part of in regards to faith-based programs here in Texas, which Texas has some of the best faith-based programs in the United States. Homeschooling as well. Texas is an awesome homeschooling state. However, property taxes and this border issue are huge. I appreciate all the law enforcement that's down here. I back our law enforcement. I appreciate all the troopers that are down here. These officers that are coming from the other states, as well as National Guard people that are down here. But if you talk to Border Patrol agents, I was a Border Patrol agent for 25 years. Frank was a Border Patrol agent over 30 years. I can tell you that what this is doing is it's creating more work for the agents. Because the reason is that a lot these officers that are down here, God bless them, that are down here, they can't determine alienage. They can't process these illegal immigrants, and they're illegal immigrants. They are not asylum seekers. They're illegal immigrants. Aliens that are illegal aliens that are coming across. They're not migrants either. Yeah. Migrant is a whole different idea as well. Yeah. But these illegal aliens that are coming across, getting apprehended. Actually, they're not even getting apprehended. They're just walking up to law enforcement, giving themselves up, and then they take them to the station. And who has to process them? Border Patrol has to process them. Yeah. And so you get politicians in our seats of government, like our governor, who wants to have task force, more meetings, just to just to speed up the process. Then you have here we live in CD 23, Congressional District 23. We have Tony Gonzalez, who's supposedly our representative. However, in my opinion, Frank, he's a RINO. A RINO is a Republican in name only for those who don't know, RINO, and I think he's doing a terrible job here in this area. And all he wants to do is bring in more detention facilities to speed the process of bringing more illegal aliens in.
His mantra, bro, and he said it. It's continually said it. This is a moderate district in CD 23. That it is a purple swing district, and you've got to, reach out across the aisle. And so, look, there are some issues that certainly you can talk, and hammer out some kind of a working, negotiable deal somewhere, man.
Right.
But when it comes to national sovereignty, to the existence of our nation as a free nation, and to be kept out of, socialist control, there is no compromise. There is no reaching out across the aisle.
Right.
And Tony Gonzalez, all he's doing is making the invasion process more efficient and faster, bro.
Right.
Yesterday, I was driving around the area. I had to go get some landscaping rock, and I was actually stalked, surveilled by an undercover, probably DPS trooper car, bro.
Wow.
And so here you live, folks in America, and you've got the government, agents of the state, following you around. Why? Just because, you're doing your business, within 100 yards because of the border, because Capital Aggregates is literally not even 100 yards from the border, bro.
Right.
It's right down there. One of the heaviest, most publicized crossing points on this border is that Fox News has been down there. Victory News and all kinds of outlets have been to this one particular place, and the aggregate company is literally, 100 yards from there. And so as I'm pulling out, he followed me pretty much all the way, almost to my house, bro.
Wow.
Because I didn't, and I was taking some pictures. There was a helicopter, hovering around, and they do acrobatic stuff up in the air. So I jumped out. I'm filming him. He's driving out, and I guess he saw me there, and so he goes and he turns around. So I turn my camera on him.
Yeah.
Always film the police. Always film your government, public officials. You have a right to. Now there's some places you can't film, but you should film them. That's just my First Amendment, freedom of the press here. I'm a citizen journalist as well. And you never know, when interactions are going to go bad and go south.
That's
Anyways,
true.
They followed me around, but afterwards I did talk to DPS troopers, and I said many of the things that we spoken around here about here, and that I've posted, and they said, look, you're saying what we can't say.
Right. And
I totally understand that, because the Department of Homeland Security under Alejandro Mayorkas, Major Dorcas Mayorkas, has restricted, what they can say. They're concerned about their jobs.
Right.
They got to feed families. They have to put food on the table, pay mortgages, pay car payments, send their kids to college, buy clothes for their kids, but yet they are patriots. And anybody who dares question their patriotism, folks, I mean, that's,
or tries to blame them for the problems that are going on.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, bro. Yeah. But anyways, those DPS troopers know that they are being that their time, the taxpayer dollar, their time is being wasted with what Abbott is doing right now.
There's bigger fish to fry out there for them. Yes. There's bigger cases to handle. Illegal immigration is going to continue. It shouldn't continue like this, because this is just open border.
Well, and I spoke with a couple of guys about troopers about what we're talking about here. Shut down commerce, commercial commerce. Right. Because folks, a lot of people don't know. There's very few people that are actually coming across from Mexico into the United States. It's not the bridges they're open, but it's limited in who's coming back and forth. Border crossers are usually pretty much only allowed to come for medical appointments. They have to have proof of that. But the shopping and all that stuff, that's virtually come to a standstill. And lappers, persons that have been lawfully admitted for permanent residence in the United States, they're allowed to come back because they're almost virtually, citizens.
Right.
American citizens, of course. But shut down commercial traffic, and then stop if necessary, blockade the movement
Right.
of these people on our Texas highways. Abbott can do that.
And he can do that. You know, he has enough.
do that.
He has enough. You know, when you drive down on the way over here
Yeah.
this morning, I passed, I don't know, maybe 24
Yeah.
state DPS troopers.
Yeah.
Put those right there outside the POE.
Yes.
Pull over every trucker that comes out.
Yeah.
Inspect, because I guarantee you, probably 9 out of 10 of those truckers.
They have some fault, some
Yeah.
wrong paperwork.
Right.
Or,
They shouldn't be on our highways.
yeah, faulty equipment of some kind. They're danger. And these are exigent times. These are extreme times, critical times here, folks. And, you know, people talk about, hey, the role of federal government. Look, man, when your home is being invaded, you know, you've been broken into by someone that wants to destroy you, kill you, you know, rape and pillage your children, you know, use your resources, take advantage of your situation that you earned through your hard work. You know, you're not going to take the time at that moment, you know, to call up a judge somewheres.
Right.
You know, you're not going to take that time to, you know, call some hotline, you know, helpline. You're going to do what's necessary at that time. And then, like they say, bro, you know, just let chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
You know, better to be tried by what is it? Better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and so, folks, these are exigent times, and Governor Abbott needs to do, you know, bold things right now.
Right.
And so Abbott is dead in the water, folks. He is a sitting duck. No pun intended.
No, he's a lame. He's a lame duck right now, and I think right now I'm gonna be
Sitting duck, lame duck.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Both.
be both. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Abbott needs to go. I really do. The job that he's doing here on the border is ridiculous. I don't agree with him and his politics anymore. I think
he's a rhino. Bro.
He's a rhino. I believe that. And there are some men that are running for governor now. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who I absolutely appreciate. Army, go Army, you know. But that's not just the only reason. I've talked with the man. I've visited with the man. He's visited with us. He stands for America. He stands for Texas. He's a big supporter of Israel, which is huge in my book. We also talked with Huffines as well. I can't remember his first name. Do you remember his first name? Huffines?
Don Huffines.
Don Huffines. We talked to him a few weeks ago. I liked a lot of his ideas as well. I really don't know too much about Prather at this point in time. He's going to be here in Del Rio tonight. 6:30 at Rudy's. If you want to go check him out, see what he has to say. But in my opinion, and these are all Republicans that are running. These are four Republicans. I believe Abbott's going to be running again. But I think he needs to go. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's certainly, and it's not just the border issue, bro. Look, you know, 18 years of Republican control of the House and the Senate. You know, the chambers of our Texas, you know, legislature, both by Republicans, and he's been the governor for 6 years. Only now, on the eve of an election, you know, of a primary election, only now he passed the heartbeat bill. Only now, he passed constitutional.
That should be one of the first things 6 years ago.
You know, people say, "Well, he's pro-life." Well, yes, I mean that's a standard conservative value. The thing is, what do you do when you're in office? Yeah. And so he waits, you know, until 6 years later. Now he's gonna finally give us constitutional carry. You know, finally now we're gonna talk, you know, about border issues when we had the single most strongest president, you know, that talked about national sovereignty. Trump, you know, came in the election. You know,
changed everything.
Yeah, changed everything, bro. And 2016, you know, and so what did Abbott do? Did he help with Trump? Did he say, "Hey, Trump, come down here. We will pull out all the stops. We will do what is absolutely necessary, you know, to build that wall." Right. You know, no, he didn't. It's about political survival, folks. And Abbott is a lame duck, a sitting duck, struggling, splashing, flapping his arms around in the water because he knows that his time is short. Right. And so get behind one of these candidates. In my mind, anybody but Abbott. And there's people that say, "Well, watch out what you get with anybody but." Well, you know, I'll tell you what, man. You know, heck, I'll run for governor, man. But anyways, you know, there's candidates out there. Visit with them, get to know them.
Go to their websites. It's funny because up until recently, I just been talking about mostly about Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. But I also, like I said, appreciate Health Finance. I don't know much about either. But people ask me, what do they believe in? What do they stand for? All I have to do is go to their website. Just go to their website, look at all their issues, read about them. People hate reading now. It seems like people just want the gist of things now, which I think is wrong, really wrong. Like, for instance, before we got about 15 minutes left. Before we go any further, I want to kind of go back to the RINOs that are in the midst of us, not just Abbott, but Tony Gonzalez, as well as Van Taylor. What a lot of people don't realize, we got primaries coming up here pretty soon. As well, where we have an opportunity to vote somebody new in this district, different than Tony Gonzalez. And one of the big reasons I don't think he's a good representative for the state of Texas or America is basically because not only did Will Hurd endorse him, but he also voted for the January 6th commission. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important the January, and I want to try to keep this in your face, in your mind. The January 6th commission it was something very, very important to the Democrats. It should have been a dead issue with Republicans, but it wasn't. 35 of them voted for it.
And two Texans.
Tony Gonzalez and Van Taylor voted for this January 6th commission. And people say, well, that was just going to be utilized against Trump. No, that January 6th commission they would be able to use it against Americans like you and me, and as insurrectionists, as domestic terrorists, anything. That they deem this, and this is why Pelosi is continue to pushing for another January 6th commission where she wants to handpick people, and she's already mentioned that she wants to pick a couple Republicans. I wonder if Tony Gonzalez is on that list, because he's here in Texas. Texas is a battleground state, people. It's a battleground state. Texas, it kind of, in a sense, kind of leads the way. As far as the conservatism goes, the rest of the nation. A lot of people tell you the way Texas goes, you can see the rest of the nation going.
Yeah, and that's what they did to California, bro.
Right.
It was a Republican state. They turned it blue, and now look at the mess it is. It's gonna be an earthquake someday. But anyways, a lot of good people in California.
Yeah.
But the other RINO, and we can't leave out the RINO herd, folks. We can't leave out these RINOs. Is John Cornyn. My God, bro.
Yeah.
He is working with the Democrats on an amnesty, amnesty negotiation.
Yeah.
I mean, folks, look. You got RINO Tony Gonzalez, who is pushing. He's the one that okayed. They say, and Raul Ortiz, the chief of the border patrol, God bless him, man, but they say that they're the ones that pushed for Laughlin Air Force Base to be used to fly out invaders into the heartland of America. Tony Gonzalez could have said, heck no, we're not going to use our military facilities for that. I am not going to be the congressman that goes and says, hey, it's okay, U.S. Air Force. Please use your airstrips to fly invaders into our nation.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that, bro? And then John Cornyn, Tony Gonzalez, Cuellar, and then the other Arizona senator, they pushed, they're trying to fund 4 mega processing centers, bro. They want to speed up and increase the amount of invaders that are coming into our nation.
I called their office a couple weeks ago and talked to them about that. Somebody actually answered the phone for the first time. I've called numerous times. Nobody's answered the phone. They always send me to voicemail. Finally, somebody answers the phone, and I expressed to them my disappointment in using Laughlin Air Force Base. And of course, right away they say, well, that was the Border Patrol's idea. And I told them the same thing. He could have said no.
No.
He could have said no. He has constitutional lawyers at his behest, at his request, and he could have said no. They need to go through him in order to do this. And also, I talked about the processing centers, and they said, well, he wants to keep track of the unaccompanied juveniles that come across. We keep track of them anyway, folks.
Yeah.
Border Patrol keeps track of them, regardless of these mega processing centers.
And I spoke with a Cornyn representative when Chief Ortiz gave his State of the Union here. Anyways, what she told me was that in that bill for the mega processing centers was a legislation piece that would track the children once they get released from DHS, ORR, Border Patrol, because they weren't tracking them. Well, fine, do that, but why tack on there? Why piggyback? 4 fast track assembly factory, based processing centers to speed up the invasion. Right. Do it as an isolated piece of legislation.
And then what happens after their process, Frank? They fly them into the middle of Middle America, so they're ignored. I was really disappointed with what Chief Ortiz had said
Yeah.
about that utilizing law from the Air Force Base. I was also disappointed when they expressed that, or not expressed, but said that criminal aliens aren't being released.
Yeah.
Folks, they're being released.
Yeah.
They're being released into our communities.
Yeah, I talked to those DPS guys, bro. They're just catching, giving them to Border Patrol, and they're processing release, man. Abbott came and said that we're going to arrest everybody. It's not happening. They're turning people over to Border Patrol, and they're still getting released. Right. And it's not a slam on Border Patrol, folks. No. It's not. That's what's going on. You know, you can't ask a Border Patrol agent to go and drop these people off at the port, deport them, and then what? He gets fired. Now he can't feed his family. Right. I mean, you know, you got to think logically. Go to the head of the snake. Go to the head of the snake. But you know, real quick, man. Before I forget, you know, this one point about you know, RINOs like Cornyn and you know Tony Gonzalez. Primary season, Cornyn's in. You know, he's in until the end of his tenure here, and so he's going to do all the damage he can to our country, bro, because he's an open borders, you know, guy, and that's what they're doing, folks. They're flooding our nation. They want that, the cheap labor aspect of it, but it's also they're puppets of the open borders, leftist, socialist, you know, crowd. And Biden, those are his true puppet masters. Yeah. And LULAC, they are the true puppet masters of Tony Gonzalez as well. Yeah. You know, his mother was a recruiter for LULAC, and he's hung out with the LULAC, you know, chain of command in the San Antonio area, bro. So anyways, primary season is coming out, and you're gonna have to be actively engaged in a way you have never been engaged before, financially, you know, volunteering, you know, getting involved with true conservative campaigns, and you're gonna have to, you know, vet them, ask them questions, and get your camera and say, look, let me get you on record.
You see them on the streets. Yeah. You go talk to them, ask them questions. Yes. Don't go and bother them, you know, in the middle of their meal at a restaurant or anything like that, like the Democrats, you know, do. You know, have some respect, you know, but go out there and at least try to talk with them, and even record the conversation, you know, and as well, post it. You know, Tony Gonzalez is very
camera shy.
Yeah, very camera shy, and so he doesn't like to talk with anybody except people that are going to give him money. But you know, unless you just hold out some dollar bills or whatever, say Tony, you know.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I haven't got an envelope here. Guess how much is in it?
But before I forget, before we go, I just want to clarify that Border Patrol itself, they're not releasing the criminal aliens. Let me just explain to you what happens. They come, they get aliens. They find out they have a criminal record. They send them to jail, right? They send them to jail here in the United States, wherever, Texas, wherever, and they put what's called a detainer, and a detainer is a piece of paper that has the alien's name on it. Says, hey, this is how long he's going to be here, and once his sentence is up, he's going to be released. Now at that point in time, ICE would go pick him up, Border Patrol would go pick him up. However, this administration is no longer enforcing detainers. Yeah. So what happens? These criminal aliens are released, not by Border Patrol, not by ICE. Nobody's able to pick them up because this administration. So what Chief Ortiz said is true in the sense that Border Patrol is not releasing criminal aliens. That's true. However, criminal aliens are being released because they're not being picked up, because detainers are not being enforced.
Yeah, and then remember, Biden in the early days of his administration, bro, shot down that executive with an executive order, that program that was stopping the predator, the sexual offender illegal aliens, bro.
Right.
And he hamstrung the hands of ICE.
Yeah.
Real quick before I forget, I was also up in Dallas this weekend, bro. We elected a new chairman. Alan West is running for governor.
Right.
He announced July 4th of all days, right?
Wow.
Yeah, but on the 11th, Sunday, the State Republican Executive Committee got together and we voted for Matt Rinaldi. Matt Rinaldi. He is the new chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. And, you know, it's kind of sad, bro, but he was the only guy that called me. Of course,
really?
You know, to talk, you know, candidate to a voting member, you know, person that was going to vote for him or another person. But I did my due diligence on the others, man. And you know, I'm not going to say anything about them other than Matt called. We had two great conversations, heart to heart, man. Yeah. The man is a conservative. He's a Christian. He loves our nation. He loves, you know, it believes in the founding of our nation. He's a attorney as well, I believe. Right. You know, and so you know, a sharp thinking man, intelligent man, articulate, but also, you know, willing to talk. And we spoke about the border, our issues, and so he wants to, you know, talk later and at length about, you know, the needs and concerns of Texans on the border.
Right.
Americans on the border.
Right.
You know, and of course, you know, we all understand, you know, hugely demographically Hispanic.
Yeah.
You know, so he wants to talk about those issues.
And that's good because, and folks, we can't let this border issue escape us. We need to keep talking about it. This administration continues to ignore it. Why? Because they want it to go away. If they don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. They don't address it, it doesn't exist. You need to keep aware and abreast of what's happening. New statistics just came out yesterday in Del Rio sector alone. Over 900 aliens per day are being apprehended here and encountered here. Now, why is that so big? Because those are the ones who want to get caught. Those are the ones who are giving up over 900 a day. So how many? Remember gotaways? We had gotaway reports. Gotaways are those aliens that evade apprehension or evade encounters. So I think the stats were like it's 5 to 1 every 5, right? Every one alien we get, there's 5 gotaways or something like that. So you can imagine the ones that are getting away are 5 times more. 5 times more getting away than are being apprehended or encountered here in this sector alone. And how many miles of border does Del Rio sector?
It had about 210 miles.
About 210 miles, right? So this isn't a large sector, folks. This is considered a medium sector. Here, there are smaller sectors than Del Rio.
That's almost 30,000 a month, people. Let me remind you, whether it's 30,000 or 1, all it takes is that 1 to get by, and that 1 finds a house, finds an open door, gets in,
right,
and slaughters your children, your family.
Or
you know, that's all it takes is 1, bro.
Yeah. Or a terrorist cell. I have to tell you, years ago when we were catching a lot of South Americans, we're getting flooded with South Americans. Among those South Americans were people from special interest nations, Islamic nations. Why? Because they were able to mix in with the Latino people, South Americans. They looked very similar. They would come in. They didn't speak a lick of Spanish, right, or Portuguese. They spoke Arabic, but we found out that they were from special interest countries. Who's to say that's not happening now?
Well, and remember, bro, I mean, Hezbollah was operating openly, you know, on the east coast of South America.
Right, and using
Hezbollah.
using MS-13.
And so, you know, this invaders, folks, talking with Border Patrol, you know, agents, they are of military age, military physique, military bearing, thousands of them. I can only surmise that at some point in the future, Manny, they're gonna connect. I mean, before I forget, those children, bro. And I'll come back to the military guys, but those children are also, you know, not only being taken into the interior, but they're being handed over to freaking monsters, animals, bro.
Yeah.
Pedophiles that are gonna use them for freaking horrible things, man. Yeah. We can't forget that, you know, initially we had to rally down in Carrizo Springs because we know what the intent is to pervert and twist what God has made beautiful. Yeah. And the innocence of children appeals to freaking monsters, man. Yeah. And this is a part of it. The military guys, at some point or another, I'm afraid they're going to rise up, bro. Yeah. They're going to band together. They're going to rise up. We got all our law enforcement in a lot of counties, you know, DPS has more people on the ground than a local sheriff's office.
And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to create panic and havoc, you know.
And to take advantage of the situation.
Take advantage of the situation, and especially when we have an administration that's so willing to let people in. Look, we got to wrap this up. We got about a minute left. We want to thank you so much for joining us here on Tacobout It Live as we give them something to talk about. We talked about a whole bunch of things today. You know, join us next week, God willing, 8 a.m. Taco Tuesday here on Facebook Live as well as on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going to be turning this into a podcast here very soon, working on the website. Continue to share this program as well. We're here for you. Email or message us suggestions on what you would like to hear. We're going to be talking locally about a local government as well. That needs to change as well. And
real quick, before I forget, folks, one last announcement here. Just got the July 31st. There's a big rally being planned in Hondo, July 31st. Big rally. Stay tuned for more details on that. And on August 8th, there is another big rally being planned in Pleasanton. You know, so Hondo on the 31st of July. And Pleasanton on the 8th of August. So stay tuned, more details to follow.
We'll post that on our Facebook page. Hopefully we'll have our website up here pretty shortly where you can get information on all upcoming events where Frank and I are going to be at as well. Frank, he rides around town once in a while and comes up upon things and posts them. But if you have anything that you want us to talk about, let us know. Message us on Facebook as well as